Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Here we are, it's 2012, and we're wondering, probably each and every one of us, is the end of the world actually upon us? Well, we've certainly seen over the last couple of years, some things are crumbling, but some things seem to be renewing and uprising. Joining here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is spiritual intuitive Sonja Grace. Her advice is sought after by people from around the world to find out what their futures are, what their presents are presenting, and whether or not they've been following their bliss from their past. I'd like to welcome to our Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Ms. Sonja Grace. Sonja, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Now, tell us about 2012. Is this really going to be the big deal that we all tend to think it is?
In my humble perspective, I feel that 2012 is really about a shift in energy, and that the end of the Mayan calendar simply marks that this is the end of a four-dimensional reality that we've been in, and that we are, in fact, moving into 5 dimensions. We will move into the 5th dimension, and that will be sometime in December. There's quite an astrological alignment in December on solstice, and the astrology of that day, winter solstice in December, is pretty phenomenal. But there are some events that will take place throughout the year that are marking our shift and our transition towards this 5th dimension. We've experienced it all last year with, bumps down the road and earthquakes and, all kinds of things that have happened weather-wise, and it's going to continue this year.
Mm-hmm. Now, obviously that was pretty disastrous for Japan. So how is this looking for other parts of the world? Well,
I have seen more earthquakes this year, but not necessarily, the places that we would, in our minds, perhaps target, like California. I've actually seen China, Indonesia, New Zealand, Alaska, some of the places that have regularly been getting, 5 points and getting regular hits. I do feel, though, that as far as, really big cataclysmic earthquakes coming, I don't see that. I see the Earth just shifting as she does and as she will continue to do, along with, Mount Etna just erupted in Europe on Wednesday and spewed ash into the air. They're really concerned about a big cloud of ash that could cause problems for Europe. And in that article I've written on predictions for 2012, I talk about Europe being covered by smoke and ash, and it will cover parts of Europe and Asia. This is a precursor to that event.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you always see Etna in crossword puzzles, but you don't think it's alive.
Right.
Now, so we're not going to see disasters to the epic proportion that, for instance, Hollywood movies tend to really throw at us, like 2012, for instance.
Right. No, I don't believe that. And what I feel is more accurate is if we were to look at our world right now and shift our perspective from looking at things in a 3-dimensional, this is where I live, this is my town, this is my country. We're all so fixed on what is real in front of us. And we expand our minds and our awareness to a larger, multidimensional reality. The duality that we live in, the good and the bad, the right and wrong, hot and cold, the duality is splitting apart. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've seen it, in all the interviews that you do. There's people who when they experience something bad, it's really bad. And when they experience something really good, it's really good. But there's very little that's in the middle of the road. And things are splitting apart throughout our world. Financial institutions are a good marker of this. Politics is a good marker of this. Everything's splitting apart right down the middle. And this, again, is a part of that new 5th dimensional energy that's coming through. As we make this transition, the duality will continue to split until we literally split apart. Mm-hmm. And there will be, as there always has been, multidimensional realities going on. And I don't mean to sound cosmically out there when I say that. I mean that quite scientifically. There are people who I'm sure everyone knows that are living in what would appear to be more of a, three-dimensional existence. There are people who are still struggling and fighting and wanting to make money the way that they did 2 years ago,
Right.
in the fourth-dimensional reality. And then there's the fifth-dimensional people who are moving into this new energy, if you will, with less resistance, with more of a, okay, I'm ready for a new world. I'm ready for a new level of consciousness around the planet. And we're going to really watch this next year. We're going to see it, just people branching off and splitting off left and right.
Well, you can certainly see a lot of that evidence over the last year and a half when it comes to all of these uprising movements, starting when you go back to Egypt in the Middle East and taking a look at, for instance, the Occupy movement, which in Portland, Oregon, for some reason, that particular city seems to think, the Occupy Portland was the only movement when, in fact, this was something going on all over the United States and really, in fact, around the world, that there were these Occupy movements. Now, it's my understanding this was actually something that started with a vendor in the Middle East who had his business. It was seized, literally taken away from him, caught himself on fire, was kind of in despising the whole act, and all of a sudden this kind of took fire where everybody else started doing the same thing, and it certainly doesn't seem to be over yet. I mean, it seems to be going on. You take a look at the United States, here we're coming into, or we're in an election year for the President of the United States, and you get this sense from the whole campaigning and everything that's going on, really, people could care less. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have seen the Occupy movement continuing. It's kind of on a quieter lull right now, but that has a lot to do with the media and what they're giving us. But the Occupy movement will actually build more momentum. I've seen our political structure in this country, we are like a company, dividing into 3 stages. We will have our election in November, but I think the results of this election are going to catapult in December some really big stuff that's going to take us into 2013 and possibly a complete restructuring of our government system. I feel that there is absolutely an intolerance around the world for the amount of cover-up, hidden, nothing that's been brought to our attention as we are all, adult people living here on this planet. There is an intolerance for this now that all of the truth and all of the, look at WikiLeaks, look at all the things that have come to the surface now. We are literally exposing all of these things that have been hidden, and it's all coming to the surface. So humanity is racing to assimilate and gather information because they've been in the dark. We've had amnesia. So we're now, we're like completely oversaturated with too much information, really, on one level from the internet, because everybody's just trying to drink it all in as fast as they can. And I've been encouraging, my clients and people that work with me that this year of 2012 is really, it's about us getting back to what we're feeling. And we are so plugged into technology and going to the internet or our iPhones or whatever technological, process we have to check in with our feelings. And that, it's going to be about people reconnecting with the earth and with our feeling level at a physical body sense, because we are transitioning so fast. Time and space is changing. It's not going to be the same. The minute Neptune goes into Pisces, boy, I tell you, the whole planet's going to shift, because that's going to be everybody in consciousness having a whole new experience. It's going to be a major shift.
I know it seems, too, when you take a look at these Occupy movements, and they really, for the most part, seemed pretty generous, or not generous, what do I want to say here? They wanted to seem pretty peaceful. Even the way that it seemed the authorities were kind of surrounding, saying, hey, guys, it's time for you to move on. there wasn't any real heavy-duty physical violent incidents when it comes to something like that, especially when you compare it to like the 1960s, you know.
Right.
And, you kind of had the sense, for instance, maybe the police force is saying, hey, we're just doing our jobs. Please don't make it any harder for us than we need to. But maybe there was even a deeper sense that they're thinking, you know what, I kind of buy into what these people are doing here. I know this is my job, but, for the most part, what I do, I feel like I'm getting screwed just like everybody else is here. So
Right.
let's talk about how we're all viewing, and this even, goes for, the safety forces, this whole thing. I mean, everybody's pointing the fingers, them stingy bankers and them spineless, government officials, bailing out. What's really going on here that you see, and what will change?
Well, what I'm seeing is that many people around the world have bought into different belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can look at that in religion, politics, the financial industry. There's belief systems. And this is what I was just talking about, is that in all of these belief systems, the truth, parts of the truth are starting to surface. And so even the people who have believed in those systems, like you were just saying, the police officer who steps back and goes, wow, I kind of get what these people are doing, but I have to do my job. That's going on. That will continue to go on. There's a lot of really good people around the world who work hard and pay their taxes and feed their children and send them off to college. I mean, there's a lot of people who are doing good things, but there's so many systems in place that have held people, communities, whatever, in place so that we are only allowed to move within certain parameters. This is what's going to change. This is the change that's taking place. And I think we're going to see it on a government level. I think we're going to see it on a religious level. I think we're going to see it in the financial industry.
Mm-hmm.
We're already watching, bits and pieces come to the surface. WikiLeaks was a great example of that. Certainly, incidences that have happened in the Catholic Church and now the sports arena, are all the truth coming to the surface.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can sense the apathy isn't from a point of view, I can't do anything. It's more of an apathy of, we don't care about all those that keep telling us they can do something, and we're going to pretty much take matters into our own hands.
Right, and the biggest thing that I see, especially looking at these predictions for 2012, the biggest thing I see with people is what they don't realize is how much power they have. Everyone around the world has the power to change what is going on. And when people realize that it's their energy, it's our energy that we emit from our bodies and our thought forms is what's creating our world and our consciousness around the world. So if everybody makes the shift in consciousness with their energy, then we don't have to. I mean, good grief, look at what a giant task it is to go out and get all the nuclear power plants to shut down around the world. Not one single person really, physically can do that. So how can we all get together and do these things so that we have a better world? I'm using that just as an example.
Mm-hmm.
It's our energy. It's what we're putting our thought forms into. If people spend all their time thinking about, our government's so screwed up and we can't, and they're just, they're on complain mode in their mind, they're not going to be accomplishing anything because that's the energy that's going out there. And that energy is being met with, all kinds of problems. Oh, gee, there was just a big oil leak and blah-de-blah, in this part of the country. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It all makes a difference. And people have the power. They've got to wake up and get out of this state of amnesia. And that's part of moving into this fifth dimension as well, is that we are all waking up. Some people didn't do their homework, and that's going to be the hard part. That's what we've watched in the fourth world, the fourth dimension in the real estate market is all these, houses were selling, people were making money, everything's going great. And then all of a sudden the financial market comes to a halt, and we've got all of these realtors and people who, standing there going, wait a minute, I'm not making money the way that I used to make money. And what happened? And those people, and I feel for them deeply, they're the ones that have really had to step up to the forefront and say, okay, I've got to embrace a new way of thinking and a new way of doing my work, my business.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't been easy. just like Japan. Japan was a great example with this earthquake. What group of people on the planet probably on a subconscious level feared a nuclear disaster more than anyone in the world?
Right.
Japan. And guess what? This is where it happened. And, bless those people for taking the stand in the forefront to lead us through a huge disaster like that and set the precedence of how they behaved and what they were able to do to show the world their dignity and their integrity. I mean, I applaud them for how they handled themselves through this crisis.
Yeah, that's, I remember a friend of mine even kind of made a silly little joke about that. He says, now at least Japan can revive the Godzilla franchise. So,
yeah.
Now, here's an interesting stretch here. Okay, extraterrestrials, aliens, UFOs, the whole bit, we've had that on the fringe for years. But what's more and more interesting about that is it seems that it's becoming more of a mainstream acceptance, like, that's probably for real. It's out there. I mean, after all, we can't be the only planet in any solar system really that has life. Tell us about what's going on there.
What I see happening is, we very much already have other life from other places here on the Earth with us, and the fact that most people believe that alien forms are in physical form like humans are is really, again, that misconception of us looking at a three-dimensional world and thinking only three-dimensionally. All of us, humans, aliens, anything in the universe, our natural state is in spirit form. So they're coming through, just as we are in spirit form in the spirit realm, they're coming through in spirit form. Some of them have physical form. Some of them come in and, want to inhabit a human form. They're here. And I see 2012 being really specifically the year for this disclosure to take place and for people to really understand that they are here.
Ah, very good, very good. Now, so overall, do you feel pretty optimistic about what 2012 brings, especially not just this year, but in the years to come?
Absolutely, because what this year is bringing is, we will watch a rise and fall with the financial market, but it is very much tuned in. It is the similar pulse of what's going on in the universe. The universe is shifting. Our galaxy is getting a whole new grid system. Everything is energy. Money is energy. So as the galaxy gets this new grid system and things are shifting, like Venus is giving off these big flares, for heaven's sakes. The sun is having giant solar flares, and we're all, like experiencing the waves of what's going on. So we'll have those shifts back and forth with the money market rising and falling. We're going to watch, our ties with different countries lessen. I see, some difficulties ahead with Russia. I see some closer ties coming in with China. I see Iran and Pakistan definitely the hot spot for the year, and some things going on there, and I really feel that the Earth, she's the one with the last say. If people could just remember this, we have methane gas that's leaking because the ice is melting really fast, and I see large groups of animals dying off because of this, and I do see the ice age that's coming. It'll be here in 2014. We're going to have a lot of shifts and changes with, with our natural, resources. What we need, oil versus wind and water, and all of the natural environmental issues are going to be continuing to escalate into this next year, with a fairly big crisis that's going to hit more around China and their industry and what they're creating and all the pollution in the air, and the world is going to have to take it on. I mean, it will be a global problem, which it already is, that we will all take on, and it's going to shift. I see us moving into 2013 with just a whole new set of rules and understanding to take care of the planet, because the planet's going to demand it.
Right.
We have no choice.
Right. Now, you mentioned the fifth dimension, and I know you touched on that a little bit. What exactly is this? And obviously you've kind of touched on a lot of things that this will affect. But tell us a little bit more detail about what this is and, you know, and how this changes people, because there's a sense in me that because we're pulling out of this stage of apathy or the slumbering sleep where we've been lulled to let everybody else make all the choices for us, that we're truly going to be moving into an aspect where our intuition and instinct are going to start surfacing, where no longer are we just going to settle for what somebody says is the right thing for us, but we're going to actually demand that for ourselves.
Right, right. Well, the fourth dimension, of course, four-dimensional reality is related to the fourth chakra, which is where the astral plane is. You know, that's why we've had, you know, such a myriad of things going on. You know, a great example is the 60s. I mean, you know, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. I mean, that was the consciousness of that fourth dimensional reality. Yes, it's a heart space, but it's also the astral plane. Everything exists. When we move into the fifth dimension, which is related to the fifth chakra, this is a higher vibration. This is a vibration that now, as we all move into this fifth dimension, we have more telepathy going on. You know, you're thinking about your kids, and boom, they call you. You know, you're more connected to people. And the problem that I foresee with this deeper connection that we're all gaining as souls on the earth in bodies is our technology. You know, I love technology, but it also is a big deterrent in that it's blocking us from some of the things that are naturally meant to be happening. Like we're all becoming more telepathic. So I see the fifth dimension as a higher vibration. I have told people, you know, for the whole past year, this year is about a walking meditation. Every step that you take, no matter what your job is, no matter what you do in life, needs to be a step that is consciously on your spiritual path, whatever that is. It has to be a conscious spiritual path, and that every step you take is in a walking meditation. To me, truly, that's what's going to get all of us through this year and all of the changes and shifts that we're having. Because I'll tell you, every time the sun does another one of its solar flares, it affects people so intensely, from headaches to neck aches to, you know, people can't sleep at night. I mean, just widespread problems around the globe with people being affected by these solar flares. And this is just, you know, part of it. We've got massive amounts of energy coming through to the Earth from our galaxy and from the universe. And we are, we're transforming, whether we like it or not.
Yep, you can't hold it back, and you can't dive into a bunker with a year's worth of supplies. Is that true?
No, you cannot.
You can't. There's nowhere to run. You know, it's planet Earth all the way around.
You can run, but you can't hide.
Oh, funny stuff. You know, because you listen to a lot of things over the last year, you know, if anybody tunes into talk radio, and there tends to be, in some senses, a very alarmist position, as though, you know, our government's going to arm up and they're all coming out to get us, and, you know, that feeling of paranoia. But I say to myself, you know, how much longer is this nonsense going to last? I mean, some of these shows tend to be relatively intelligent about a lot of things, and you go, you know, how much longer? And you know what? So what? What if they do overrun it? Then what? You know, it'd be like if you're up in the Rocky Mountains and you've got yourself, you know, a little community up there, and they love to, you know, practice, for instance, cannibalism. Well, what happens when they run out of food and they start eating each other? Then they have no friends.
Right, right, right. Well, Dan, it has so much to do too with again what we started this conversation about, and the duality. Mm-hmm. And the more people prescribe to fear, the more that they stay in their fear, the more that they will be manifesting the doom and gloom scenario. Mm-hmm. And this isn't doom and gloom for the whole world. It may be a community that shares a particular consciousness, and suddenly that community is hit by tornadoes and floods and all kinds of things, and it would appear, if one was living there, that it might be the end of the world because it's so cataclysmic. Mm-hmm. You know, people are creating things all the time, and fear is one of the biggest magnets to bring it right to you. So, again, for 2012 and the continuing shift that we're going through, I suggest wholeheartedly stay out of fear and really focus on what it is you want to create, because this is the year that we all learn that we are manifesting our reality from our thought forms, from what we're thinking.
Yeah, and I would think a good way for our listeners to do that when they, how do I stay out of fear? Well, first of all, don't listen to or watch the news. I mean, the news has got, in my opinion, really, really dumbed down. Stupid blatantly is what I'd like to call it, because they really don't say anything unless they say, oh, that house is really on fire. Well, yeah, there's no legal bind there, so I guess you could say that with no repercussion. But the fact is putting that aside, you go out and you look around your neighborhood and you realize, things aren't that bad. I see the family out there playing with their kids in the yard. That seems okay to me. You walk down the street, you see more of the same. The other thing, too, is getting involved in volunteering in different things. You realize what it feels like to give, not maybe just of your time, but maybe your resources. Those are the things that a person can do that could stay out of this place of fear, to where, courage really begins to build themselves, where if somebody comes along and says, oh, I want to take that away from you, nonsense. Why don't you participate and be part of the solution and continuing to be the problem that you tend to think you're creating?
Exactly. And again, this goes back to energy. And in order to understand and figure out what your energy is doing and how your energy is, in fact, connecting with that energy in the world, doom and gloom, or, yes, a new world, we're headed towards the golden era, is to, simple things, meditation, go get yourself into a yoga class, do exercise, do things, go outside and sing, it's like do things that raise your vibration and get you connected and get you into a more centered place, so that you can feel your body. That's our homework while we're on the planet, is to feel our feelings and to feel what's going on, and then realize where your energy's going. Because people, a lot of times I see people out in the world and they're not conscious at all of what their body's doing, let alone where their energy is going. And it would help a great deal for all of us to shift what's going on the planet, to be aware of our energy.
Well, that would certainly stand to reason why zombie movies are so popular. Hey, that's us, just mindlessly going about our day.
Yes, exactly. And to understand, too, that the duality and being split, that it's not necessarily about participating in that split. It's about being able to step back and observe it. Say, wow, that looks really good over there, and that looks really bad over there, and I'm going to stand here and observe both sides.
Exactly. Sonja Grace, thank you so much for sharing your predictions for 2012. A lot more encouraging than I'm sure people were thinking 3 and 4 and 5 years ago. And it certainly sounds like we're on track as long as we understand what track that is. Is there a website people can find out more about you?
Sure. My website is Sonja, Sonja, Grace, GRACE.com.
Sonja, again, thank you for giving us your predictions for 2012.
Thank you, Dan.
We also want to thank you, the listeners out there, for tuning in. If you want to find out more about Beyond 50, simply log on to beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. Sign up for our free weekly e-newsletter, and be sure to visit our blog where we have more information about this prediction of 2012 from Sonja Grace, as well as a hot link and an archived interview as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.